Today's guest is someone who embodies perseverance, endurance, and perspective. Haydn Blake joined the police force straight out of year 12, and his journey didn't begin without obstacles, facing medical challenges with colour vision. Through sheer determination and insistence, he pushed through and began a career built on commitment and resilience. That same resilience shows up in his running. Haydn has completed multiple 50-kilometre ultra marathons in the gruelling Upstream challenge, even taking out first place in April 2022 with an extraordinary time of 5 hours and 21 minutes. He has tackled the event twice, over 100 kilometres, run the Larapinta Trail stage race near Alice Springs, and taken part in numerous relays and midnight marathons supporting causes like MND and the Cancer Council. Today we explore grit, purpose, family, service, and what drives someone to keep going. I'm Ian Bunston. Welcome to Monday Matters. Welcome, Haydn. It is great to have a chat with you this morning.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
Haydn, you joined the police force, as I mentioned in the intro, straight out of year 12, but the medical colour vision test was a major hurdle for you, I believe. What was going through your mind at that point, and what drove you just to push on and accept no for an answer?
I think as kids, we all have dreams of what we want to become when we become older. And I wanted to become a vet at one point, a pilot, an electrician like my dad. But it wasn't until our house was burgled that I decided it's time to take justice into my hands. And so that sort of prompted my pursuit to join the police. Having a love for aviation, I thought I want to get into the police helicopters. So from the age of 13, I wrote a letter to the police wanting to take a visit to the Air Wing, which they kindly accepted. I went along with my brother and my dad, had a bit of a look there. And then that same letter was found many years later by one of my colleagues in the police museum, of all places. So that triggered a few memories. And then in year 10, I was wanting to do work experience to get a good idea as to how the place worked. So I was fortunate enough to get a week there after initially being declined due to insufficient placings in the police. But me being me, I wasn't prepared to take no for an answer, so I just kept writing letters until finally they agreed to making a place for me. So I spent a week there, and that just concreted my desire to get there. So, of course, once year 12 was finished and I was eligible to apply, did all the right things to join. I even did a 6-week TAFE course, not that I needed to, just to ensure that I was fully prepared for it. So after completing my initial interview and then getting to the medical stage where I was told to look at a colour vision test booklet, which I hadn't done before. And on turning the pages, one would be expected to see a variety of numbers and lines and patterns. And for those that haven't done a test like that before, it's like a black book full of confetti-coloured pages with varying colours designed to test whether you can see a particular range of colours. So in my instance, I wasn't able to score the required amount to pass the test. And so the medical officer told me that I wouldn't be able to proceed in my application, which surprised me because it never seemed like an issue prior to that. So when I was told that my application couldn't be progressed, again, I wasn't going to take no for an answer because this is what I wanted to do. So I wrote further letters and requested other options. And then eventually they agreed to that and sent me to the ophthalmology clinic in Carlton, where I undertook a number of tests, including an aviation standard colour vision test. And I managed to pass that one, which was fantastic because up until that point, while I hadn't ruled out that I was going to become a police member, there was a possibility of that. So I wasn't quite prepared to know what to expect because it wasn't part of the foreseen hurdles that I would come up against, having prepared as much as I could for it. So yeah, it was a challenging time, but I kept my desire and my goal firm and just kept pushing at it. So yeah, eventually the police received that letter from the ophthalmology clinic and were happy to receive those results. So yeah, so I think that's me in a nutshell. Is just because I'm told no, I'm not going to necessarily stop at that until I've exhausted other options.
So, Hayden, how many years then has it been since year 12, since you've been in the police force?
Well, it'd be 30 years this year since I've been in the police force. So April 2026 will be my 30th anniversary.
Yeah, yeah. Not trying to work out your age or anything like that, but that's fine. Yes. Now that's great to hear that context and what you've done in the major part of your career. If we can just move to your running and this ultra marathon mindset that you have, you've completed multiple, I mean, 50 kilometers and even 100 kilometers. For most people, the 5 kilometer run is even a challenge. And now I don't know a whole lot about this upstream challenges that you've done, but you had this first place that you got in 2022. Just take us through what it's like when you're, going through these hours, 5 hours plus of what it must be like for your body and your mind. What's it like?
Yeah, it's for me, running is a sense of freedom. It's a chance to get out and just enjoy what we've got and use it to the best of what we can. I love exploring places. Sometimes I guess it's a little bit sadistic. I love the pain associated with it because it's a reminder that you can push yourself that little bit further if you're just willing to. A lot of people are willing to give up, so I get that satisfaction from being one of those that won't give up when many other people potentially would. I don't know whether that's a pride thing or whether it's just a challenge, but that's what pushes me on. It certainly gets hard. There's times where you do want to stop, but you've always got things running through your mind when you get into a space like that, and sometimes it just allows you clarity of thought and an opportunity to process, especially when you're immersed by just the nature that's around you. I generally prefer, yeah, running out in the bushland type of environments, cross country, rather than running through our urban streetscapes where everything's just busy and hectic and a reminder of the daily life. So yeah, setting off on a race like that, you start to feel good at the start, but depending on how hard you press yourself, by the time you've got to at least that halfway point, you're already starting to feel burnt out. You're carrying a certain amount of energy supplies and nutrition to keep you going, but you do crave for that Coke at the ideal checkpoint just to give you that energy burst. And when I did the 100K effort, I had a mate ride his bicycle alongside me for the entire duration who carried all of my energy requirements so that I didn't have to carry them on my back. So I think that's probably part of the reason why I was able to complete that one was because I didn't have to solely carry everything myself, but I had that support alongside me for the entire way.
Now, I know a lot of people listening to this will be in awe of the fact that you've, done the 50K, but let alone the 100K. And I'm just diverting a tiny bit here because I've been involved with the park runs, which, happen every Saturday morning, parks all around the world.
Mhm.
And there's lots that happen in my neck of the woods here. It's just a 5K run. But I sense a great feeling of connection with all the people that are out there doing this run. The sense of community is wonderful. Did you find that sense of community amongst fellow runners and the folk that were around your events?
Yeah, definitely. But when I train, generally train alone. Occasionally, I'll meet up with other people and we'll just do a long run together. But that's rare because it's hard to try and find that time to coincide. But once you get along, whether it be at the start line or partway through a race, it's not like where you're at a shopping centre and you bump into somebody, picking up their peanut butter off the aisle shelf, and then you strike a conversation. Um, at a race, you're there for a common goal, and it sparks conversation, whether you've known the person from a previous event or whether it's the first time you're meeting them. It generates conversation, and I think it's that social aspect that we all crave in some respect. And yeah, running is where we're able to find that. And I've met many great people, and some of whom I still keep in contact with today that I've just met the first time ever on a race course. And then through that conversation, you determine things about that person that are very similar to your own background. For instance, one chap that I ran with, I learned was a former police member that worked nearby to where I once worked. So yeah, little things like that just create that mystique and conversation, which is encouraging. It keeps you going through the race and keeps you distracted.
Now, Hayden, you're running events supporting causes like MND and the Cancer Council. How does running like for a cause change your experience compared to running purely just for competition?
I'm a competitive runner. I'm more of a social runner, so I do it for the enjoyment. And my placings have never been awesome, apart from that one time that I achieved that first placing, which was probably just a miracle on that day. But I think, in general, when you embark upon a fundraising effort for a charity, there's both the awareness component of it, the charity that you're supporting. Just trying to develop that understanding amongst the community of what it is that charity does, and then at the same time trying to assist them with additional resources to achieve what they do. So with that in mind, and so many people being aware of what you're intending to do, it pushes you just that little bit harder to achieve and not let anybody down. So you still feel the same degree of pain, but I think in some ways it's easier just to push through that little bit easier. For instance, when I did the MND relay with some work colleagues, one of our work colleagues was diagnosed with MND a few years ago. And so we all banded together and went to the MND relay in support of him. And myself and some of our other colleagues hadn't done any running for a couple of months, not to any decent distance at least. So on that particular day, we managed to run, it would have been about 33 Ks without any former long distance training within a short time frame immediately prior. So I think sometimes it just shows that you can achieve things that would be ordinarily a little bit harder if you've got that definite goal in mind.
I can understand how it would urge you on. I just want to turn to the Larapinta stage race near Alice Springs that you're involved in, and I believe it would be incredibly physically and mentally demanding. And it's a multi-day event. So how does that compare or test you compared to the single-day events?
Yeah, that was the first multi-day event that I'd ever done. So that was back in 2019. It was staged out of Alice Springs, and then each day a bus would take you early in the morning to the next starting stage, which would be along the West McDonnell Ranges where the Larapinta Trail is. So being a very hot, dry climate, we had to carry minimum safety equipment. And I generally run with a camelback, so I'm used to carrying something on my back. That would usually be about 1.5 to 2 litres of water or some sort of Powerade solution. But with this other race, there was always the chance that the weather may change and you may get caught out. So you had to carry things like safety blankets, matches, and other survival equipment, and all this extra weight. Weighed close on about 4 kilos. So in really hot conditions of 30+ degree temperature, once the sun had fully risen, with the additional weight on your back, and then getting to the checkpoint at each stage where you had to top up your water bladder so that it was completely full, because there was no guarantee that you would make it to the next checkpoint within the time frame that you were hoping for. So that was something different compared to what I was used to in my other running, where you generally have checkpoints scattered around the trail, and you wouldn't necessarily have to fill up your pack. You could just take what you needed there and continue running on minimal weight. So I think the hardest thing with that race was I didn't prepare enough physically for the hills and mountains that I have to run. So by the second day, with all the elevation involved in that, my knees were completely screwed, so I could barely walk by the end of it.
Oh.
Going into the third day, I got off the bus, started at the start line. Everybody ran ahead of me, and I was last. And I turned back, looked at the bus, and I thought, that's my way back to camp. And I turned around, I was walking to the bus, and then I thought, no, I've paid a lot of money to be here. I've trained pretty hard for it. Could have trained harder on hills. But I turned around and I thought, I'm just going to walk it. And then I walked it up to the highway, which is about 500 metres. And then from there, I thought, no, I'll try and run a little bit. And then it became a game of run a little bit, walk a little bit, run a lot more, walk a little bit less, until by the end of it, I was running at my normal speed. And I think I didn't finish in last place, which surprised me because I expected I would do. I think I finished probably about fourth from last, so I overtook a few people by the end of it. So yeah, again, just shows if you're prepared to push yourself that little bit, despite the pain, sometimes you can look beyond it.
So, putting aside the running and the pain and and the challenges, is the Larapinta Trail as beautiful as they say?
Oh, it's yeah, it's. I'd love to go back there again. I was thinking of doing that last year, but I hadn't. I think sometimes when you plan to do something, you've actually got to commit to do it, and usually committing through financial means is the best way because it's harder to back out. So in any time that I've actually planned to do a race and booked it in, then I'll succeed with it. But last year I spoke about doing it, but didn't actually book it in, and so it never happened. So yeah, for anybody that's got those sort of dreams to do something, that would be my advice. Whether it's a holiday or anything like that, if you don't actually make the time to book it, then time will push on, and you'll just miss out.
My understanding, you've got to book in well in advance for something like the Larapinta Trail. So, yep,
Yeah,
okay, get on and do it. And I would just want to change the dial a tiny bit here and talk a little bit, or ask you a little bit about your recent trip to the Philippines and the impact that it had on you, and especially had the opportunity to take your children with you as well. What did the experience teach you about things like gratitude and perspective on life? And how's it influenced the way that you live maybe today and also you parent?
yeah, I think yeah, in our nation, we're very fortunate, and we all have pressures when it comes to difficulties living and the financial burden that involves. But it's not until you go to a place like the Philippines and you see how much more we have than what they have in a physical sense, that you begin to appreciate just how lucky we actually are. Um, we saw a lot of poverty, people working out in the rice paddies that would work in there for 8+ hours a day in the full sun, in the rain, not having any protective gear as we would be expected to have in our country. They'd just be gumboots, bare feet. Their pants would be soaked with mud. They'd have the full extent of the sun on them, all just to earn, the equivalent of a meal by the end of the day for their family. Whereas when we go to work, we intend that it's going to supply our fuel, our mortgages, food, holidays. So these people I found are very resilient, despite the typhoons that come through, wipe out their houses. They pick up with what they've got. They set up again and keep going. But I think the big thing that I took away from it, that we saw a lot of pride that the Filipino people take within themselves and what they achieve, particularly with their education, their cleanliness. They have so much potential, which is equal to ours, but the opportunities they have are a lot more limited just due to the physical limitations with their resources. So I think that really spoke a lot to me when I saw some high school students that demonstrated their singing, the Legao National High School Voice Chorale, and they had a rondallo guitar playing section, and the talent that came from these people and the joy that was on their faces as they played was amazing. So yeah, when I say that, the potential is equal to what we would have, I think sometimes their potential exceeds what we have. But if they had that opportunity to be able to travel around the world and showcase their talent, how much better their potential could be.
And am I right in saying you were able to take your children with you on this trip?
Yeah, we took our children, and I was hoping for them that it would give them a better perspective again of how lucky and fortunate we are. So while we were there, we had the opportunity to participate in medical mission work, feeding programs. We visited jails where we were able to interact with some of the inmates. And over there, the inmates or prisoners, they're referred to as persons of deprived liberty. And the prison guards or jail guards, despite wearing militaristic style uniforms, had such a sense of humility and care when looking after these people. And they would often refer to them as our less fortunate brothers and sisters, which I thought was quite surprising compared to the culture that we come from.
And in terms of,
So yeah, for our children,
go on.
yeah, so with our children, yeah, we come away with that greater understanding now, especially having been able to get involved and assist. I think our purpose was to want to go and help, but we found that the Filipino people gave so much back to us that is just immeasurable. That you just can't put a value on it.
It's certainly a life-changing experience for everyone involved. It's for parents and for children. So what a great opportunity that must has been for you to take your family on such a great experience. Seems like
Back question whether it would be money well spent to go back again and experience that again, or whether you would pass on those resources from a trip of that nature back to the community for them to spend on whatever projects, whether it be typhoon shelters or other infrastructure projects they need. So you'd be question your own spending habits a little bit.
We just lost you a tiny bit there, Hayden. But if I can,
No.
you're still there. If I can just, because we can
Yeah.
edit this, but if I can just get your response just once again, in terms of just following on from what a great experience for you and your family, Hayden, to be able to do this and experience it with your children.
Yeah, and the opportunities that the kids have had to take away from the Philippines has been amazing. They would love to go back. We would all love to go back. But we've also thought that the cost involved in going back to visit such a place would, for us, it would be great, but it would be a selfish ambition, I guess. We've seen what we've seen before, and the money would probably be better well spent injecting that back into their own local projects and supporting their community.
Okay, we're just having a slight communication technical connection there, Hayden, but that's quite okay. Look, we our time is gone, and we do need to wrap things up. And we are aware in the background, Hayden, that you are part of the air wing. So you're up there in that police helicopter. But we're going to leave that for another day until Vic Pol give us the green light to talk more about that. So we'll get you back. But look, thank you so much for being our guest today. In terms of really just inspiring us with regard to just pushing on it, each at our own level of skill and development, whatever that they might be. From what you've said today, even just to help us to push on that little bit more, to be encouraged, to show that little bit more grit as we go about things in life. So thank you for the way that you've been able to share your experiences, which is truly remarkable. And thank you for being our guest at Monday Matters today.
Thanks for having me, Ian, and everybody else.